Hello and welcome. In this video, we are going to take another look at flow control in the C programming language. And specifically, we are going to take a look at if statements again. This video is part of a larger series of videos that focuses on the fundamentals demo or the fundamentals of the C programming language. It assumes that you've got a working fundamentals demo or some similar project and that you have access to the SNPs files that I'm providing. In this particular video, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on how to refactor some of our code from an earlier example. This time, what we're going to do is we're going to use the AND operator to allow for us to combine conditions. In the earlier video, we saw how to solve a problem with nested if statements. In this particular example, what we're going to do is we're going to solve the same problem now using more of a flat structure. Again, just so that you get multiple opportunities, different examples, multiple exposure, etc. So you can go ahead and start by copying and pasting your prototype over and adding it to the list of prototypes. We're going to copy and paste our function stub down here to the bottom. And what you'll see here, you'll actually see our last example, our if statements 04. And if anything, what we want to do is take a quick look at it one more time, and that it was the one that uses the nested if statements, where we were checking two conditions for is raining and the temperature, and depending on whether or not it was raining or not, and depending on what the temperature was, we either chose to take a jacket, shorts, trench coat, an umbrella, and if for some reason the user entered in some unknown value for is raining, well, it just simply told the user to please enter in a legitimate value, and it didn't tell them what to wear. Now, this is a good approach. This is actually a very good approach to have these nested if statements, except sometimes you may want to try a different approach or a flat approach. Maybe perhaps when you're first starting out to solve a problem, in other words, you don't have a complete great idea of exactly what all the possible combinations for the conditions are. There's a variety of reasons, and that leads us now to the idea of these short-circuiting and ultimately the or as well, though we won't cover that in this video, and the not operators. Provided you with a link to those in the wiki books for the C programming language. And so what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the and for this first pass at this combinational logic. This also leverages truth tables, and the idea here is that if you can check two conditions at once, then your logic just simply looks a little bit different. Again, doesn't necessarily have a benefit one or the other. You will see that you'll actually kind of be using both. There will be some examples where one is slightly better than the other, particularly when you start looking at optimization. But for right now, it is going to be somewhat up to you to figure out which structure you're most comfortable with. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to ask the same question as we did before with the weather and the clothing, and the results will hopefully be the exact same. So let's go ahead and start by setting up our two variables again. If you want to, you can go up and get the code from the previous example. The int is raining and then int temperature. And if you've not done it, we encourage you to go ahead and set default values for both of these. And then what we want to do is a combination of a printf, please enter, or actually, let's put it this way for this first question. Is it raining? And then 0 for false and 1 for true, followed by a new line. And might as well go ahead and put a question mark in here. Follow this up then with a scanf, %d, and then we store it at the address of the is raining variable. Follow this up again with another print statement. What is the current temperature? Followed by a new line, scanf, and we again use %d to store the value at the address of the temperature variable. Now, please note with a temperature, for instance, you can also do this with a double. Again, just keeping these examples simple. So what we want to do is we want to sort of remind ourselves of what our possibilities are, and that we had some threshold. We can do the same with this particular example. We can say that anything below 70 is considered cool, and everything above 70 is considered warm. And so our possible combinations were cool plus raining. And cool plus raining meant a trench coat. Cool plus not raining was a jacket. Warm plus raining was an umbrella. Warm plus not raining was shorts. And then if somehow we got either cool or warm plus unknown, well, that was supposed to lead to an error. And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially write our logic just like we have our comments. And that what we're going to do is we're going to check two conditions at the same time. And if both of those conditions are true, in the example here, if it is cool and it is raining, we simply tell the user to take a trench coat. And to see how this is done, we simply use an if statement. We will go ahead and nest our parentheses, one for each condition, and you'll see why when we get done. But we'll start off looking at the is raining condition, because that's the one that we started off with before. And the is raining, if is raining is equal to false, and our temperature is less than 70. Effectively, what this is saying here is that not raining and cool, in which case a printf, please take a jacket. Now, you can choose to follow along with me in this serial manner, or what I would encourage you to do is to go ahead and pause the video and see if you can figure out what the rest of these statements look like. I'm going to continue on here with another else if, and I simply check each of the possible combinations here. So if is raining, again, equal to false, and the temperature is greater than or equal to 70. Notice that I had to flip the signs to make sure I included the value of 70. Well, what we have here is not raining and warm with a printf of please take some shorts, followed by a new line. Under my else if, again, now I look at the possibilities for is raining equal to true. And I flip my temperature condition back to checking to see if it is less than 70. And so what we have here is raining and cool, which, if you recall, said that we want to wear a trench coat. So please take a trench coat, followed by a new line. And then we have a couple of possibilities. We could stop with just an else, and that would mean that under every other condition, we take an umbrella. Or what we can do is we can check once more that our is raining equal to 1 or true, and our temperature is greater than or equal to 70. Again, notice how I've been very careful with how I've worded this example in these conditions. And that means that our raining is, it is raining rather, and warm. In which case, we want to have a printf. Please take an umbrella. Followed by a new line, which then frees up our else to provide the user with a prompt that says error, unhandled combinations. And so what you get is, again, nice validation that you know that all of your inputs were handled. And the only way that you get to the else is if somehow you have missed one of your conditions. For instance, if you have forgotten to include the equal sign, to include the 70 on one of these two possibilities, then if the user entered in 70, then they could also end up here on the else branch. The other thing to note here is the way this is worded, all four of our examples are handled, all four of our conditions, as well as the error condition. But because this is a short-circuiting operator, meaning that once it has been evaluated false, in other words, if is raining is not equal to 0, this condition is not evaluated. In other words, because an and has to have both conditions be true for the entire expression to be true, well, it simply jumps to the next condition should the first condition be false. In other words, if is raining is not equal to 0, well, there's no reason to check what the temperature is. It is, however, going to check again, but it's again going to skip over checking the temperature, in that now once is raining equal to 1, then it will check the temperature. Now, of course, if we have a scenario much like the first example where the user enters in some nonsense value for is raining, well, then we will unnecessarily check is raining 4 times and then ultimately print out the warning to the user. There's a little bit of an art associated with figuring out what structure is best to use, a nested structure or this flat structure. I encourage you to explore both. You will find yourself using both professionally. As a matter of fact, we'll actually combine this. We'll have some flat if structures inside of a nested structure and so on. So much like other flow control elements, there will be many, many, many combinations. So let's test this real quick and see if we get the same behavior. We can simply come up here. We'll turn off our previous example, follow it up one more time with a new one here. And let's go ahead and build this. Is it raining? Well, we'll start off with the nonsense value. Notice I'm still getting prompted for the temperature. I'm going to go ahead and put in 70. You can see that I'm getting the unhandled combinations, which is good. I'm going to put in a reasonable value here. In other words, 0 for false. What is the current temperature? I'm going to go ahead and put in 70 just to see what it tells us. And because we've written our logic to include 70 as being a warm temperature, then it's telling me to take some shorts. I'm going to change this a little bit here. I'm going to say, is it raining is false, but I'm going to put in 69 and it's telling me to bring a jacket. And then the other two possibilities is that it's raining, yes, and the temperature is 70. Well, let's bring an umbrella. And then is it raining and the temperature is 50, which should tell us to bring a trench coat. Now, again, hopefully you see that this example is a little on the silly side. It's meant to be. It's supposed to help you get started with understanding how to do this flat structure and this combinational logic using the AND operator. In later videos, I'll show you also how to use the OR as well as the NOT. These will also be useful tools for us. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and thank you for watching.